I'm really excited for today's video because it's all about how to keep the mess at bay and how to keep your home tidy. The last couple of years, by creating this channel, I've spent a lot of time thinking and talking about how to make your home work for you, not against you, and how to get to that place where you feel like, wow, my home is mostly tidy. Not that it's clean all the time, but at least it's tidy most of the time. And especially after the last few months, I had a baby 3 months ago, I've had to deal with a lot more mess and just a lot more chaos, things to do. So I've spent a lot of time thinking about how do I take all the different things I could do to keep my home tidy and whittle it down to just those top 5 things that if I keep on top of, my home stays at least mostly clean. So that's why I'm so stoked to share with you, after all this thought and effort, what has genuinely worked for me, somebody who is a messy person, to make my home feel welcoming, open, streamlined. And again, not that it's perfect all the time, not that I want people to look in the back corners of some of my closets and storage areas. I still have some mess, but my goal is to make my home a place where I feel relaxed, where I feel I can recharge, and where I feel like I can have guests on a whim. And I wanted to keep the message simple, something that's doable, that's just bite-sized pieces. What are the top 5 things that have worked for me in keeping my home more streamlined? So the first strategy I use to keep on top of the mess is to stay on top of laundry. And I know this one is a sticking point for a lot of people and it's really annoying, but I think that if you take the time to sit down and be honest with yourself about how often do I do the laundry, how much does it build up, what are the barriers to me doing it more regularly and streamlining that process, you can make a huge difference in how stressed you are about your space and also reduce your mess. So basically for me, historically with laundry, I would procrastinate it as much as possible. I would stuff my laundry hamper to the brim, to the point where where you're like pushing it down to create more space for more stuff. And then when I do the laundry finally, I'd have to do multiple loads and or really cram the washer up to the very brim. And it was always this kind of overwhelming process. I hated doing laundry. It was no fun. And it was because I didn't create an actual system for doing laundry that worked in my favor. So what I did is I sat down with myself and I thought, how can I just get on top of the laundry? Because if I could just make laundry not a stressful thing, if I could eliminate that as a stressor in my life, boy, would my life feel a lot better. And I think a big part of it was building it into my routine, that regularly once a day, I'll just grab one load of laundry, bring it down to the basement, throw it in the washer, then at some point later in the day, throw it in the dryer, and then in the evening, maybe even in front of the TV or while I'm having a fun conversation or something, I will fold laundry so that it's wrapped up in something I also enjoy. And part of this was also finding little strategies that made it easier for me. Like instead of just having one big hamper, having a hamper that was a little bit smaller so it wouldn't get overwhelmed, and then also a hamper that had a divider so that it separated the whites from the colors. I know, so basic, but I hadn't been doing that. And I found that as I've gotten better about just doing laundry regularly, I'm less stressed about it, I'm not as intimidated by it, I'm not avoiding it as much, it's not on my mind as much, and it has really streamlined my space. A second way I stay on top of the mess is I stay on top of the kitchen mess. Let me just tell you, if I have a messy office or if I have a messy bedroom, it's annoying, it's irritating, but it isn't catastrophic. But if my kitchen is messy chronically, I just feel icky all the time. It's because it's a space where you're interacting a lot, you're doing a lot in there. It's something that often is also more visually apparent to other people in the family or guests. It's not kind of away in a back room. It's right there in your face and you're dealing with it on a regular basis, especially if you're cooking every day. If you can regularly integrate spurts of tidying your kitchen into your day, it greatly improves your quality of life and makes the entire mess in your home feel more manageable. Like it'll make that mess even in that back office or closet feel more manageable because you're like, I can handle messes. I keep my kitchen clean. I'm the type of person that keeps my kitchen clean. And it gives me at least this sense of self-efficacy. Like instead of just thinking of myself as a messy person, I think to myself, you know what? If I can keep my kitchen mostly tidy, I can handle these other things. And I also think the kitchen is important because it can build up so fast to be super overwhelming. That's one change I've noticed since becoming a mom. I just have to have my kitchen clean every day by the end of the day because if I don't, then I'm just 2 steps behind starting the next day. So again, like the first one, I sat down and I problem solved, how can I make it a top priority that I just keep my kitchen mostly clean, or at least I get it to a pretty clean place at the end of each day. Part of it for me was running the dishwasher every day, even if it's not entirely full. And part of me felt bad about this, but then after looking into it further, I found that actually running your dishwasher is sometimes more environmentally friendly than hand washing. So even if the dishwasher isn't 100% packed and full, it might even be better for you to just run it than to hand wash a bunch of extra stuff. Part of what's helpful in keeping the kitchen clean too is that it doesn't all land on one person. I notice that when I'm the only person cleaning the kitchen for a few days, I start to feel a little bit of animosity. I start to feel overwhelmed. I feel kind of alone in things. So at least for me, what I found to be really helpful is when my husband and I do it together, and maybe it's a time when we can chat about things, catch up, or even for us to take turns on it. That's another system that I think has really helped me stay on top of it. A third way I stay on top of the mess in my home and keep my home tidy is to consolidate the mess. So I made a whole video on the idea of a smart mess. I'll link that below in case you're interested. How do I make my mess work for me, not against me? And I presented a bunch of questions you can ask yourself about how to figure out, is this mess smart? Is it helping me or hurting me? But I honestly think that if you're smart with your mess, if you keep your mess limited to one area, if you also are strategic about where that mess is, and you're sure to regularly kind of go through it and try to tidy it, it makes life a whole lot easier. And it makes you, again, feel like you're more on top of the mess, that you can handle the mess, and that maybe you're not such a, quote, messy person. Like I've said before, we're all gonna have some messes sometimes in our lives. So instead, I've accepted, sometimes there's gonna be a mess, and I'm just gonna be smart about it. I'm gonna be a realist about it. I'm not gonna just avoid it. A fourth strategy that has been huge for me, and this might be the biggest one, is to purchase or shop less. And in today's society, it's easier said than done because we have been socialized to collect and to keep. We are constantly inundated with ads to buy things, and it's really hard, especially because sometimes our belongings serve as social cues. It's a way of connecting with people. It's a way of relating. It's a way of expressing maybe our interests or our appreciation for a certain aesthetic or our style. It gives an energy. What we have says something about us, and that is a very human thing, to want to collect things that communicate something to other people. Plus, I think on some level, it's just fun. Making my home feel nice and maybe buying some pretty thing for it is just fun. Like, it's nice to curate a pretty home, and it's nice to have a wardrobe that I like. But just as a thought experiment, if you today were to never buy anything ever again. Again, that's not going to happen. We have to buy things at times. But if somehow you were able to do that, that would mean, sort of by definition, your home would never be messier than it is today. It's really that flow of stuff into our homes that creates the mess and the chaos. And I think once we accept that and face that truth, we can start to move forward and have a streamlined home. In some ways, this is, again, the most important piece of any of these tips. If you can just slow down that trickle in of belongings, you can gradually get on top of the chaos. So just think about, how can I shop a little bit less? How can I reduce the urge to shop a bit less? I also have videos on that. And once you answer those questions and do some soul searching and figure it out, it can make a huge difference. The fifth strategy I want to share for keeping the mess at bay is to declutter. And I know you've heard about it before. I know I've talked about it before, that's for sure. But it really makes such a difference. Similar to the last one, if you can stop adding things to the pile, but then if you can tackle the pile that already exists, you will notice your home naturally becoming less chaotic. It will become more clean and more handleable. It'll be easier to put things away because if, say, you have a shelf and it's not crammed full of stuff with things falling off of it, if it's easier to put something away, if there's less friction or effort in putting something away, you're going to be more likely to put it away. And so having less stuff is really the key ingredient to having a tidy space. And I do mention it last because this is a long-term thing. I do think that you can't just declutter in a single day and think that all your problems are going to be solved forever. Decluttering is a muscle that you need to develop. Sometimes you need to declutter the same room more than once you get better at decluttering and realize you don't need as much stuff. But I think that if you can build decluttering into your life regularly and just eliminate the excess, your home will naturally become far less messy. Okay, so I know these are all very simple concepts that maybe you've heard of before and thought about, but I swear if you follow these 5 ingredients, it makes such a big impact in your quality of life. So again, those 5 are: 1, keep on top of the laundry. 2, keep on top of the kitchen mess. 3, consolidate the mess. Put the mess away in one area, not all over your home. 4, purchase less. And then 5, declutter. So a lot of this also probably involves some personal problem solving. What are your personal barriers to getting on top of these 5 things? Maybe it's finding the time in your week to actually do some of these things or how to build it into your routine. Maybe it involves looking at your own emotions and reactions and kind of deeper soul searching about why you keep shopping or why you keep avoiding the mess. But whatever the barriers are for you, if you problem solve them for these 5 things and get on top of these 5 things, it could change your life, because honestly, it's changed mine. I don't mean to sound dramatic, but it genuinely has. I can't tell you how much shame I honestly felt in the past because of how messy I was. It truly is embarrassing to admit this on the internet for everyone to see for all time. But by getting on top of these things, it's changed not only my space and how it makes me feel, but it changes how I see myself and how I identify myself. If you want to join me on that journey, or at least hear about some of these ideas, then I'd encourage you to hit the subscribe button below. I really hope to add value to your lives, to feel like you can handle the decluttering and the streamlining of the mess. My hope is to make it feel less stigmatizing, like you can do it, like it's possible, because it has been possible for me, and I never had thought it would be possible. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button. It's a great way to support the channel. It really is. It's a simple thing for you to do, just to take a moment to hit the thumbs up, and it makes a big difference for me. Anyway, thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.